She's obvious.
Yeah.
That was
Okay.
really good.
Great job.
Meeting call to order. Today is Tuesday, January 7th. It is now 7 PM. Town Council, meeting at Town Council Chambers, 1170 Main Street, West Warwick, Rhode Island. Happy New Year to everybody. And John, will you lead us in prayer?
Yes. Bow our heads, please. Heavenly Father, we pray for your divine presence at this meeting. Please bless this body with your Holy Spirit. Remind this council to be mindful and thoughtful. Guide our discussions and guide our decisions, as well as our actions, as the choices we make have significant impact. And finally, dear Lord, we ask that you bless our great town and all of our many citizens. We pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen. James, pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilman Licciardi?
Here.
Councilman Messier?
Here.
Councilwoman Williamson? Here. Council Vice President D'Amico?
Here.
Council President Goslin?
Here.
There is a quorum. Councilman Licciardi, do you want to take care of that now?
Sure. At this point, I would like to close the executive session held on Tuesday, October 22nd, 2019, that discussed under section 42-46-4, 42-46-5, A2 litigation, Attorney General Peter F. Nerona versus the Town of West Warwick, PC-2019-10009. Second item, Town Council inquiry into the West Warwick wastewater treatment facility Chief Operations Officer. It's a personnel issue.
We do them one at a time.
We'll do one at a time.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
This time, I would like to close the executive session that was held on Tuesday, November 19th, 2019, that discussed 42-46-5A2 litigation, Kelsey versus the Town of West Warwick, KC 2016-0776. Second item, 42-46-5A2 litigation, 55 Plus LLC versus West Warwick, 119 CV-00222. The third item, 42-46-5A2 litigation, Nerona versus West Warwick, PC 2019-1009. Item 4, 42-46-5A2 litigation, West Warwick Public Employees Retiree Coalition et al. Versus the Town of West Warwick et al. KC 2019-1103. Item number 5, 42-46-5A2 litigation, opioid class action lawsuit, case number 1.17-MD-2804. Item number 6, 42-46-5A1 personnel, update and discussion of candidates for the position of personnel director. And the final item, 42-46-5A1 personnel, update and discussion of candidates for the position of director of public works.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
At this time, I would like to close the executive session that was held on Tuesday, December 17th, 2019, which spoke about 42-46-5A2 collective bargaining, RI Council 94, Local 2045, contract negotiations. The second item, the final item, 42-46-5A2 litigation, Diane Kelsey versus the Town of West Warwick et al. KC 2016-0776.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Discussion, action, vote of town council. Any matter on this portion of the agenda may be acted upon by way of topic discussion and action by the town council with a vote on the record to approve, amend, deny, or table the agenda item. 1, ordinance 2020-1, first reading, sponsored by Council Vice President D'Amico, an ordinance amending Appendix C, traffic ordinances of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of West Warwick.
Move the ordinance.
Second.
Move and second, Al?
The first item, the southerly on Junior Street, the wrong way. This was brought to the traffic committee by Chief Varone. If you, right now, council has passed the ordinance making it one way from Main Street around behind Horgan School. If you are at the Public Works and you come out of their driveway and not knowing the area, you could turn right. If you are in the parking lot across the street at the Horgan School and come out not knowing the way, you could turn left. The problem is that it is a very short distance to Main Street. Cars coming down Main Street and turning into that street, making a left and to go in behind Horgan School, all of a sudden could be faced with somebody coming at them, not realizing it. I went down there with Chief Varone and we looked at the area. There is presently a sign somewhere between the Public Works entrance and Main Street that says wrong way. The problem with that is that by the time anybody reaches that sign, they've got no place to go. They'd have to back up to at least Public Works. So Chief Varone's feeling was that out of an abundance of caution to put these signs up, that you're heading in the wrong direction because of the situation where very innocently somebody could pull out of Public Works, they've been there, never been there before, turn right, and the next thing they know, they're faced oncoming traffic. The second matter was requested by Councilman D'Amico to change a yield sign to a stop sign.
Do we typically need an ordinance to put a sign, even though there's already a one-way there?
Yes.
Okay.
That is my,
Okay.
that question was asked at the traffic committee, and I felt that since we now have a separate
Yeah.
appendix for ordinances, that this was the safe way. My concern was that if we didn't do it by way of ordinance, somebody goes the wrong way, the liability that is
Gotcha, yeah.
there. This way, you have officially acted that if you do that, we've taken every precaution we can, and we did it officially, saying you're not supposed to go down there. So that was mine. I agree that, it probably could have been done just with a sign, but I figured it might bring some liability to the
Sure.
town.
Correct.
Okay, makes
So
sense.
all we're doing is changing from wrong way to a do not enter? Is
Yeah.
that what you said? All right.
And making it official, and also putting it in a location where you don't get down in front of the houses where you got no
Right.
place to go.
Right.
Far,
Yeah, you already entered it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
As far as, can I speak? As far as the Nottingham Drive Crossborough Lane situation, the whole Greenbush area, there's a lot of kids in that neighborhood. Cars move really quick. Even when Councilman Padula was here, we were talking about changing the speeds and things to that effect. So this has kind of been an ongoing conversation. At this location, literally, there's, people don't yield. And Mr. Richards lives on the corner. He has children. There are other children in the area. People are like flying around and they're not observing the yield sign. So we're hoping that the stop sign is there and people pay attention to it.
For the council's knowledge, in all of these instances where we're regarding signs, we've taken with the police department and the chiefs, before we do any of this, usually I go out for a ride with the major and with the chief to see these spots, and what the councilman is saying is,
I don't live in the area, and I know it's a problem.
Even the stop sign across the street, people fail to stop at that stop sign because when you get to that stop sign, you could make a right. There's only one house there, so people get in the habit of just kind of doing the stop and roll, and it's just not safe. So hopefully this will help.
Any other questions? Any public comment on this matter? Just need you to come up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. You don't have to put your hand up, just state your name.
Roger Richards, 1 Crossbow Lane. I've lived in this house now for 6 years. When I first bought the house, at the open house, it wasn't that busy. It's been awful. John, I'll tell you, me and him have been talking this, is probably one of the biggest issues I've probably complained to him about the most. Excuse me, my voice has been sick. I know that there's plans possibly, depending on what happens at the end of Nottingham Drive, with the developer, that they, you know, they want that to be a 90-degree corner. I would be happy if it was a stop sign tonight. If you want to put the sign in my car, I'll go and bolt it up tonight when I go home. I will save you the money, I mean, you know.
Unfortunately, it doesn't work.
I know, I'll save the time, I won't even build a town, I got all the
I've made
tools.
the same offer in the past.
But anyways, John has been out there when he lived in the neighborhood. I mean, my father's, you know, the only times I feel safe out there is tonight on trash night. I put my bins 6 inches out from the curb so people will slow down. It's awful. I almost got whacked going on my yard just coming to this meeting. They don't yield. I mean, if you want to bail out the town's budget, just put a cop there for 2 straight days and a stop sign. You'll probably bail out half the budget this
And
year.
there is a sign right before
Unfortunately, that
it.
money goes to the state.
I know, but
There's a sign right before
Dave,
it
I
that
know.
says children playing as well.
Yeah.
People still don't slow
children
down.
playing, we have a yield sign. I mean, that yield sign, I mean, I can't even count anymore since I've been there. I mean, I don't know how long I'm staying in this house. I'm outgrowing it when I'm staying there, but a stop sign right now would make me probably the happiest person right now for now, you know, and not, you know, and then the corner I'll decide later. I mean, I like in Mr. Lachati's area, that you guys made that kind of, it's not really the most professional, but you've made that off Pulaski Street, that big round thing.
Oh, yeah, and when you're pulling out of
It's-
a.
Yes.
It's actually a temporary. it's
Well,
not
honestly,
finished yet.
I've asked, I know it wouldn't look like the nicest, I've asked my councilman and even the planner if we can put one up, you know, until we decide what's gonna happen in my corner. I know it could be an expensive project, but if they wanna put that up and the stop sign, I'll be happy. I mean, it would save, you know what I mean? I mean, I know it's a corner lot, unfortunately, you know, and I know when my house was built, it was built in '85, and John's old area where he used to live was built in the '90s. That was not an area, I don't think they planned on all those extra houses up there. Majority of the speeders up there who fly through the stop sign, like he said, are ones that live in the back. You know, or maybe the Coventry folks that come
Sure, it
by.
used to be worse when you could go all the way through from what's it called?
Crompton Road?
Yeah, from Crompton
When it
Road.
was
I'm sure it used to
construction,
be-
yeah, I know, I've heard that too. Like I said, I've been there 6 years. I don't know how much longer I'm gonna be there. I've got 2 kids. I mean, I park my cars in the street, and then I get the dirtiest look when I'm out there. When I'm cutting grass, people look at me dirty. They hate it when I park my, I could go on for that all night. I don't wanna keep saying that. But honestly, if this could get approved, I mean, if this does get approved, I don't know how it works. How long before I'd see a stop sign switch? Just curious.
So after the second reading, it's 30 days or 45 days, they have, somebody can come and appeal it, and then shortly after.
So about a month figure, maybe, roughly ballpark?
Yeah, I'm actually trying to clarify something because
20
we approved some signs 3 meetings ago in a couple of different wards, and they haven't been put up yet, so I'm just confirming.
You just recently put up the one on Nottingham at Mr. Lally's street, which I caught, and I was like, oh, wow, maybe mine will be coming up soon, so I want to just thank John, appreciate this, for getting on this so quick. I mean, luckily I followed a meeting a couple of meetings ago about the Mr. Lally sign, and I said, well, how can I get mine done, and mine's just as bad. I mean, but this is the one thing I want done right, you
Yeah,
know.
probably the beginning of March to the middle of March, somewhere in that
Listen, we're
neighborhood.
gonna have plenty of snow, so I can just throw the snowbanks out in the street and they'll slow down, so.
Is it
Don't curse
that long? I thought it was 20 days.
20 days.
It might be 20 hours.
Listen,
Okay.
anything is better than 2 months for me, it's 3 months, that's all I can say. So I appreciate you guys, thank you so much about that.
No
That's why
problem.
I came tonight.
Thank you.
And just to mention, signs were approved in my area on Carlson Circle and Lee, and they were just put up yesterday. And, I mean, I see them all the time. I travel that road many times throughout the day, and it's already made a huge difference. And people are stopping. So,
Thank you.
it's working.
Any other comment? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Jay?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes,
Mary Beth?
Yes,
John?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
those both together, right?
Minutes of the previous meeting, approval of the minutes of the December 3rd, 2019 Town Council meeting, December 17th, 2019 Executive Session meeting, December 17th, 2019 Joint Pre-Budget Meeting, West Warwick Town Council and School Committee, December 17th, 2019 Town Council meeting.
Move the minutes.
Move the resolution, sorry.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
oh,
Comment?
yeah, joint pre-budget meeting. Meeting was called to order at 7:45 and we adjourned at 7:42. We're good, we're not that good.
I think that's backwards, it was only a few minutes.
It was only a few minutes, so.
57:42 to
If you will
7:40.
approve it as amended, I will take care of it and post it tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comment? Nice catch, Councilwoman. All in favor?
Hold on, I'll move to amend it.
Make a mo,
Oh,
So I
Make a
move
motion
to
to-
amend the minutes
Right.
to have the correct times reversed. Call to order at 7:42, adjourned at 7:45.
No second.
aye.
all right, motion for the amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
Now I have a motion
Second.
to pass.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion?
Second, I'm gonna make a motion to move the minutes
As amended.
as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you. Consent agenda is license applications. Resolved that the consent agenda, having been posted, all matters being referred to proper departments and being disposed of or awaiting recommendation, the same is hereby approved.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any public discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. The 4 licenses that are on the agenda have been approved, so if you're here for the licenses, you have been approved. Pending taxes, fire, and police approval.
For action, a resolution adopting a revised, updated controlled substance and alcohol testing model policy for employee CMV drivers. Town Council to consider adoption of the revised, updated Rhode Island Trust model policy governing the controlled substance and alcohol testing model policy for non-police and fire employees, CMV drivers, who are required to maintain a CDL in order to perform their daily duties.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Manager?
Yes, good evening. The town of Warwick, West Warwick, is part of the Rhode Island Interlocal Risk Management Trust, the trust. Their program, they have a program which is Mandatory Drug and Alcohol Consortium. So the town joined this consortium, I believe it was 1995. And this consortium was developed to enable members of the trust to comply with U.S. Department of Transportation's federal motor carrier safety requirements regarding the testing of commercial driver's licenses, those who have CDL licenses. The pool helps the members by implementing the testing procedures, education requirements of the federal mandate, while minimizing the work that individual communities have to do for the compliance to the federal law, so that employees can operate the heavy vehicles that require CDL, and prevention is for any type of impaired use from drug or alcohol. So the trust has this program, and they have their attorneys review federal regulations and any regulations that are passed by Congress and implemented. They will review them and develop model policies for the members of this consortium, which, as I said, the town of West Warwick is. So the U.S. Congress mandated the creation of a secure, centralized, searchable database for drug and alcohol violations from those who hold CDL licenses, and it's known as the FMCSA Clearinghouse. So this is going to be, for employers, real-time data that an employer, a prospective employer, can look to see what type of a record a prospective employee may have as far as any type of violations regarding the CDL licenses. And there is a requirement that, an annual requirement that current employees be reviewed once a year. And I believe that once a year can be determined by the employer on an annual basis. Once they pick a date, then that's what it's going to be going forward. And again, this is a attempt for pre-screening for employees to make it, again, more difficult for any employee, any individuals with CDL licenses that have a number of violations to navigate around personnel requirements and so on. And again, this is determined by the federal government to implement this program. So as I said, this is the clearinghouse, and all employers who employ those with CDL licenses have to enroll as an employer in this program. The town of West Warwick enrolled, as well as the sewer department enrolled, because they have even though the town of West Warwick, they are a separate entity under this mandatory drug and alcohol consortium that is here. So, they have their own same requirements, but for sewer department employees, the town has its same requirements for town employees. So, starting January 6th, these new regulations came into place. The Interlocal Trust has submitted the draft policy to its members in the consortium and requested adoption of this draft policy. So with that, that's a a thumbnail sketch of the program, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that I can about the program.
Ernie, would this be, I don't know how many people this would affect, but would they all be done at the same time? Would they be staggered as far as, or they be picked at random?
Well,
Or is this-
drug testing is done at random.
Okay.
Part of the service from this program is, they handle the drug testing, the scheduling, they have the medical supervision. So those tests are done by random.
Do they come to us, or do we go there?
They come here, they come here.
Okay.
So they just show up and do the testing.
And do everybody that's on shift?
No, it's just whoever's on the list. It's just numbers. They just have numbers and it's anonymous, but, the employee corresponds to a number. They'll come in and do a test for whatever, 1, 2, 3, whatever. And then periodically they'll come back, I don't know the frequency, and do another test.
Okay.
So eventually everyone will be tested.
Everybody will be tested within a year, though?
That I don't know.
Is fire still exempt?
Fire and police are exempt
Okay.
from this. So the drug testing is part of it, and then now the change is the registration. So again, anyone who holds a CDL license is going to have to be registered. Now, going forward, my understanding is if you're hiring, any employer who's hiring someone who has a position that requires a CDL, they are required to go to this database and search for the results.
Okay.
And at least be aware of that while they may, for that decision-making process. If it's a current employee, then annually, there has to be a check by the employer. And we need a clarification, but I believe whatever the annual time is going to be applying to everyone. It may be a time where the town will check all CDL licenses and licensing, but the town has the ability to choose that annual date. And once that date is set, that's the way it's always going to be. But that would be my understanding, but, I do know there's the annual check. So those, the requirements, and again, the biggest change now is this federal database. And again, the federal government has been doing this. I mean, they will do it for medical providers to see what kind of prescriptions they write. So this is what's happening in these secure databases. And part of the process is no checking can be done without the written approval, consent of a prospective employee or a current employee. But if you don't consent, then you're not allowed to drive, a vehicle that requires CDL licenses. And if your job requires you to drive and you don't choose not to do this, then that would be a problem.
I have another question, unless somebody else has another question, I have one
No,
more.
go ahead.
Nobody else has anything to, all right. I guess we'll cross this bridge when we come to it, if somebody chooses not to
Well, that'd
consent.
be, that's a job requirement, and if a job requires you to have a CDL and drive and you don't sign a consent, then
Then you don't drive.
And this is a federal mandate, correct?
yes,
Okay.
yes,
Pretty
there's
simple.
no, yes.
It supersedes state, and state supersedes our towns, so.
All right.
Any other questions for the manager? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
And just as a point of information, we are inquiring as to whether or not the council acting as the sewer commission has to approve the policy for the sewer department, because again, they have their own separate testing. So the town doesn't know who's tested on the sewer side, if there is some remedial action for a violation. The town doesn't know that, and the sewer department doesn't know the town side. So we have inquired as to whether or not this has to be done by the council acting as the sewer commission. So hopefully we should be getting that answer shortly.
But both entities are registered at this point in time.
Yes, both entities are registered, so we are in compliance. But, so that's part's done. And now the picking of a date, certain. And then as employees come in, for that require CDLs, they will be required to sign a consent and the database. And I'm assuming that this database is going to be growing, as it goes through the months and years. But this is what the intent of the federal government is, to have that information basically real time available to employers. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
Resolution amending the appointment date for the Personnel Director from January 14th, 2020 to February 10th, 2020.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Mr. Manager? Yes,
okay, thank you.
you just continue to talk.
Thank you.
after we vote.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you. Yes, the town council approved a resolution appointing Sheila Wall to the position of Personnel Director with a appointment date or start date of January 14th. And she will be relocating from New Hampshire. So I've been in contact with her periodically to see how the search for housing is going. And recently, late last month, she indicated that she was having difficulty finding housing. Combination of the tight market, coupled with the holidays and the availability for weekends to come down and look for appointments. Many of the rentals that were there were taken up by the time she would arrive. So that was a problem, and she was very concerned and fearful that the January 14th date may not materialize. So we discussed this, dilemma, and we discussed a start date of what would be, she would think could make with certainty. And the February 10th date is what we discussed, and I indicated I would recommend that to the town council. This afternoon, I received an email from Sheila saying that she is working with a local realtor, and felt very confident that with the assistance of the realtor, they should be able to secure housing. She assumed that 10 years ago when she moved from Rhode Island to New Hampshire, it was pretty easy, and thought it would be pretty much the same, but conditions change, and so that was a very difficult process that she did not anticipate. So based upon that, my recommendation would be to extend the starting date to February 10th. As I indicated, spoke to her, and she indicated today that is certainly doable now with the assistance of the realtor who will assist in, scheduling and these housing, units for her to, review and hopefully secure housing. I won't say hopefully will secure housing.
And you have indicated that she is not getting cold feet at all.
Yeah, one of the questions that I had,
Yep.
obviously, would be, do you have any hesitation about accepting the position after it was offered you in any way, shape, or form? And she said, definitely no. It's just something that she didn't anticipate the difficulty of housing, and even the difficulty of having a pet, and that limits some housing. They don't want pets or whatever, but no hesitation. She assured me that she is very eager and can't wait to start the position.
Any questions for the manager?
No.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Addition of taxes, resolved that the attached addition in the amount of $11,096.76 presented to the tax assessor for approval of the town council in accordance with Article 25, Section 5 of the West Warwick Code of Ordinances is hereby approved. Original list is on file in the office of the tax assessor.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moving second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. For matter 7, Myself and Councilman Licciardi will be recusing ourselves, so John, if you want to
Sure.
take over for that one.
Cancellation of taxes. Resolved that the attached cancellation in the amount of $37,198.71 presented to the tax assessor for approval of the town council in accordance with Article 25, Section 5 of the West Warwick Code of Ordinances is hereby approved. The original list is on file in the office of the tax assessor.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Hearing second, any questions from the council? Any public opinion, comments, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Claim. Resolved that the town council hereby approves or denies the following claim against the town. That is Robert Gisaldi, 227 Legris Ave, town tree fell on shed.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Who's-
It was reviewed, was it not? And-
Yeah, it was reviewed, recommended, I'm just trying to, Fred Gill signed off on it.
Right, recommended that the committee approve a claim in the amount of $780, which was the lowest estimate.
Yeah. And to put this through the trust, we have a deductible, so we would have to pay it anyway. So any other comment?
What are we, hang on. What are we paying for? Like,
A hole in the
Hole in
shed.
the roof.
well, are we paying for the shed, the removal of the tree? What are we,
There's a-
You get 3 proposals.
Yeah, if you look, it's mainly the dead
Yeah.
tree, town property, fell on roof, shed causing hole in roof, this is repair of the roof, and shingles, from what I see.
I guess I would ask, is the agenda clear enough for us to act on this tonight?
I would suggest that you table it only to get more information. One, there's no photographs. Two, there's no
Just gonna say
clarification
where are the photographs?
as to the town property. And again, just the, Mr. Gill's remarks that the assistant director and the foreman went to the location and assessed and determined that said tree was on town property. There's no plat or lot, there's nothing that would really give you any information but for the 3 proposals.
Yeah, the actual work,
Estimates.
the actual $780 though is on the end,
Right.
and I agree, there's not enough. I'd like to see some photos, I'd like to see the plat and lot, make sure it is our tree. But it says remove 30 square feet of roof shingles, remove approximately 30 square feet of roof sheathing, which usually comes off together. Replace the sheathing with like thickness, replace paper flashing, and dispose of rubbish. All materials supplied, $780 in labor.
So I would make a motion that we table this item.
A second.
All in favor?
hi,
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Discussion action, A, Matthew Maderos for Koalik Drive, sponsored by Councilman Licciardi, flooding history, steps taken to alleviate problem, and what further steps can be taken to solve the flooding issue.
I know Mr. Maderos is here tonight. He had called me, this is going back a few years ago, and actually, no offense, I didn't believe him. He said, we've had water that came up to the top of a fire truck tire. And I'm thinking, all right, that's up to your knees. And, you know, people call, they like to tell a story and so I went out to the property, and sure enough, it wasn't that bad, but it was, you could see the line on the fence where the water had gone up to before. And, Matt had talked about, gave the history, which he can give tonight a little bit, just so everybody has the same understanding. I don't feel anybody should have to put on duck boots to walk out of their house to get to work after a rainstorm. I think it's, seeing the property as well, everything comes down from a few different areas right to his property. Like 2 hills beginning in Coventry and coming down, and it's too much for the drain to take on. It's too much of a decline, and everything just rests right there. And Matt can give you a little bit of history on it.
Matthew Maderas, Falkawalla Drive. As you know, I was here approximately a month ago for the claim on the car and discussed it a little bit. This has been a problem since 2004 when I purchased the home. We started immediately having issues dealing with Councilman Constantino at the time, and then dealing with Councilman Gustafson, and now Councilman Licciardi's been helping us out quite a bit. As he said, there's, we've complained numerous times. I know there's been numerous people that have come out to look at the issue, and pretty much from what I was told from each person was there's too much water for the pipes to handle. They have tried to alleviate the problem over the years. The grate that's in the center of the road, they did widen and put a bigger one in, but still, it's the same amount of water going in. If the pipes aren't big enough, that doesn't really help. A lot of leaves and stuff collect in the middle there on that grate, so they thought with the bigger grate, it would help some of the water go through. Didn't work. They tried opening the actual grates going, the drainage going into the pipes on both sides of the road. That didn't work. Another issue I was just telling Jay about is every year when it snows, the plows push the water into the corners, blocking the drains. And we complain about that every year. And yesterday, signs went up that say drain on both sides of the road, which we've been asking for years. So at least that got done. Hopefully that'll stop the snow issue. But the issue we have is obviously the snow blocks the drains, the rain comes, and there's no place for the water to go. I don't know what needs to be done, but something needs to be done because it's just, the flooding is continuous. Nothing has seemed to work. Somebody needs to look at it. If that woman coming here wants housing, I got a great house for her, waterfront view. I'd be happy to sell it to her.
But one of the things that we've done, though, is when Director Picozzi first started, I actually went down there with him with a fresh set of eyes, didn't know the area. This is the problem, explained the problem that we're having. And with him and Assistant Director Freddie Gill, they put it on a schedule to jet the lines, and they did it twice. And they went all the way out to the river. And there was a schedule put in place to keep that drain clean. It was a quarterly schedule. I don't have it offhand, but I was working with Assistant Director Gill on it. The only issue is, because everything comes down so fast, you could clean that today. And then the wind blows and leaves come in, the dirt comes, the salt and sand from the plows, and then 3 days later, that could be buried again in chunks, and it freezes, and it stops the water from going down into the grates, which again, you get rainstorm, and the water gets built up. So, aside from that, I'm not an engineer. I don't know how, and I've discussed this with Mr. Maderas, I don't know how to fix the problem. I explained to him I'll do whatever I can to alleviate this situation, but we have a new director here now. Just started about 3 weeks ago. This would, not to dump this on you, but this is an area that I'd like to have a new set of eyes come out and look at to see if we can try to remedy this issue another way. The only thing I can think at this point, and again, I'm not an engineer, but to rip the road up and put bigger pipes in, but again, at what cost?
Well, the question I have.
But something really, I think, needs to be done.
I'm not familiar with the area. The question I have, and we can get probably that answer through the director later on, is also an issue of the river rising, the height in the pipe too?
I was told that there's a river that actually runs under a piece of the property right on the other side of the four-way intersection, and that it was on a town map. And I was just told that recently. I haven't had the opportunity yet to go and find that to see if it's, actually, if there is something water running there.
Yeah, because I've
which
seen
is-
in a couple of other problem areas where the river would rise and pass the pipe. And obviously that becomes a restriction for the water to come out if the water's running down the river. And I don't know what part of the river that's on over there as far as Colwick. And Mr. Maderas, and I think I had a conversation with you out in the hallway a month ago. You are the only house, correct, that's having the problem?
My house sits low.
Yeah.
My neighbor across the street, his house sits higher. So the water will obviously will go up, but it doesn't get to his house. It goes a quarter up his
It's an
yard.
issue with the street, though.
And
It's the
there's
street
some
as well.
conversations that we can have, I mean, that, maybe it's a house that we can never fix, and it's gonna be millions, is it worth other options? We could talk about those options later on, and I threw that by him last month, and he's willing to work with the town, but
Right.
let's see if we can keep him
Yeah, and
there and get the house resolved.
like Councilman Licciardi said, the cleaning and the jetting has certainly helped. But the issue, the storm in October, is they cleaned the drains like in September, and then with all the leaves falling, it clogged it up, and that's when the car flooded last time. So it's certainly helped, but unless you're gonna do it on a monthly basis, all the sand, all the leaves, everything goes to that one area. And understand, when I bought my house, nobody told me of a water problem. I'm putting myself out here now. If this doesn't get fixed and I go to sell my house, my value's gonna go down. It's gonna cost me money because of an issue with the town.
Well, I think
So it's
too,
bringing the value of my house down.
we know where the issue lies, but the issue is coming from different areas.
Yeah.
So if we started in different places
Get those
where the
water-
source
get
was,
the water
maybe we
resolved.
can try and divert from that source. Because I don't see there being a fix to this.
No, I mean,
It-
we've discussed, just so it doesn't come up again, we've discussed a berm. When I bought the house,
Yep.
there was a berm in there. I mean, a berm's 6 inches tall, the water gets 3 feet deep, so
No,
it's useless.
We've had areas like this in the town where we had to go further up Paris Avenue, and divert some water up there, so it wouldn't come down into the Brayton Street area. Because that was like, we call that like the bowl, because that's where everything was going. And we had the state come in, do some stuff on Main Street, make sure the drains are clean and able to divert some water from going down there. So, like Councilman said, we might have to look at further up the road.
Yep.
To prevent some water. We also had it with Kent County Water going down to Brayton Street. All their water was washing off their property, and they resolved their issues by putting a couple of drains in.
This is also, just so everybody's aware of, when the hazard mitigation plan was developed, this was specifically pointed out by me in an area in Ward 4 that, and I'm looking for grants with this hazard mitigation, that this is something that it's a very troubled area, and so it's in the plan that it needs to be addressed. So if it means anything, if we get a grant for it or apply for a grant, then this could help, so.
Yes, I've spoken with Director Olet, and he's been down to the site and has some observations that he would like to share with you.
Come on up. Just state your name for the record.
Don Willett, Director of the Public Works. I apologize, I
Thank
did
you.
not copy very well, but
Thank you.
I'll walk you through it real quick. I think there is something we can do to at least get a third of the water off the property. And there's a few things that we're gonna do operationally that should help.
Thank you.
For the record. And I think you already have a copy, but actually I need this.
Take it.
If you, if you're looking at this drawing, dead center is 4 Kowalik Avenue. And when you start looking at the 6 roads that are in these 6 blocks that are here, they all drain to Kowalik Avenue. The one thing that I don't understand is the water that's coming down, Barnard?
Barnard.
Barnard Street.
Arnold,
Barnell Street, thank you. Goes directly to the outfall. However, the way the water is set, the way the drainage is set, it actually makes a left-hand turn and goes down to Fort Kowalik. Gets into the collection system there, and then comes all the way back, and then at the corner here, instead of having a catch or a manhole, which is what normal engineering practice is, they got a clean out. And so they're not collecting any of the water at that location, nor are they collecting any of the water on the road on the far right, Sydney Street, as it comes down the hill. A simple solution to at least eliminate that part of the flow would be to turn around and actually install a manhole there and to put a couple of catch basins there, direct it into the manhole. So the flow would still come that way, but replace the cleanout with a manhole and then have it come down to the outfall. That may not solve all of it. I will tell you that we have got the drain signs up. I think they went up last week, if I remember correctly. They are cleaned quarterly. Last time they were cleaned was December 5th. And there is some minor debris there now, so it is beginning to clog up. From an operational standpoint, we're going to stop using sand completely. We're just going to go straight salt. You're about 10 or 15 years behind most other communities. Sand is a tremendous environmental problem. It's also a very economic problem because you buy the sand, you mix it with the salt, it restricts the salt from doing the work that it wants to do, and it stays. And then you have to dispose of the sand. You have to pick it up, sweep it up, pick it up, and then you have to dispose of it. And it's not just disposing of sand, it's now considered a minor hazardous waste. So the only place we can get rid of it is Johnson, so we have to haul it to Johnson for a landfill cap. But if you look at this, you can see there should be some other catch basins put in. I came up with a total, and this was a 15-minute, armchair engineer estimate on it. But I'm looking at about 8 catch basins and 2 real manholes to try to direct this stuff correctly. I'll also go, now I'm going to get on my soapbox a little bit. When your professionals tell you that you need better drainage, that you need to turn around and actually do this, this whole development was poorly done. It was probably built in the 1950s. There's very little drainage on this street, and the drainage that is there is done incorrectly. I'd love to be able to put another outfall into the river, but that's an act of Congress in order to get to be able to put another point source discharge into the river. So I think you're stuck with that one outfall, but I think we can utilize it a little bit better. I also observed on this, near the end of the outfall where the pipe is, there was actually a couple of sinkholes. Now, they've been filled, but when you have sinkholes, there's a reason why you have sinkholes. And they have told me that they've got, they saw the pipe actually pull apart in a couple when they cambered it. So we're going to re-camber it, and we're going to dig it up this spring, take a look at it, and if we have to do a repair there, we'll do a repair there.
Where exactly is this pipe?
It's all the way down Barnard Road, Barnold Road, all the way down towards where I have the outfall.
So it's down towards
Don't tell
Yeah.
Brian?
Brian,
It's down by Bryant Plaza, correct.
Okay.
But to do everything that I'm putting out here, it's also an $80,000 item. If we're able to do it in-house, which I think we're capable of doing it in-house, we can probably cut a third of that cost down, so we can probably get it done for $50,000 to $60,000. So we need to find a way to get it in the budget. Okay? Does that help at all?
It gives a little bit of explanation. I'm sure the homeowner's relieved to hear that there's something gonna happen, and I think he's been very patient, and he
Yeah.
understands that we're trying to do something. He just wants to see further results
Yeah,
soon.
not a problem.
Thank you.
Mr. Darish, you have any other concerns?
I don't, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Exterior security cameras at Town Hall, sponsored by Councilman Licciardi.
I put this on, a constituent came up, Derek Reed, had a public comment, I think the last meeting, and spoke about cameras at Town Hall. It is vague for a reason, because, as I was thinking a little bit about this, there's more I want to say about it. I don't know if I'm allowed to amend this line to address other issues with cameras that are not at Town Hall. Am I allowed to do that?
If they're at
Okay.
Town Hall, yes, but not at Town Hall, no.
Okay, all right, so that'll be for the next agenda. But part of this is Derek here tonight? I mean, you can come up and talk about it if you'd like. I'm only looking at, I put it on for discussion purposes, so we all could discuss it. What I'm thinking, looking at this, is I'm looking more in line of the Rite Aid parking lot. which is no longer Rite Aid. And, you know, I got out of my vehicle the other day to come to town hall, and I'm thinking, am I on camera or not? And I actually saw Councilman Messier out there, and we had a conversation about the cameras. Only two of us, so there's no quorum. And we were wondering if the cameras reached out here, because we use that parking lot, at least right now, until it becomes something else. But we park there all the time, whether it's for a council meeting, or to go in, somebody goes in to pay their taxes, or could be a planning board, pension board, whatever kind of meeting, we use that overflow parking. And I don't know if the cameras actually reach out there, but I think it would be a good idea.
So the police department cameras definitely know. There's a set of fire department cameras that do hit the front of the street. I'm not sure, and we could talk to Chief and John Patello exactly where that's aiming. As far as the front stairs, there is an issue to get the Cat 5 from here to the exterior of the front of the building, for the thickness of the building, the type of the building. And it was discussed at the first time the cameras were installed back in 16. Anybody who knows, an individual had to get up in between both floors and get that wire down there, because everything is located in this back room, the server, everything. It's locked up during the day, nobody can touch it, mess with it, or anything like that. Is actually, so, again, it's just a matter of getting the Cat 5. Now the question is billing, whatever it may be. Do you want to take a camera out of here and put it out there? You know, it could be no extra expense, it'd just be the expense of running the wire from the front of this building out, and there's gonna definitely need to be a situation of a hammer drill to get through the front facade of this building. The thickness of it is very thick, and that's one of the reasons why it wasn't done in the first place.
Okay.
So, but it's just a matter of whoever has access to the account to call up and put the order in. That's it. I will say, their sales rep we'll have to find, their sales rep is no longer a sales rep with that company, so they have to, I can look in to see who the sales rep is, or who they can assign, and the town manager has to call up on that matter. Or whoever has access to the account. There's 4 people in charge of the account here, 3 or 4 people? The account here for the cameras, anything to do with, you can call, Elaine can call, and your former secretary could call, so, you might wanna change her name on the account and do that. So that's all it's a matter of. And if it's a pricing situation, you can get that information. And if you wanna move, and to be honest with you, we have a camera here that's seeing all town hall chambers, and we got a camera there seeing all of town hall chambers. I think it's a little overkill. You might better take this camera and move it out to there, you know, and that will get the front stairs. Now, if you want to get the parking lot of Rite Aid, you're not gonna do all that with one camera. You can get, so if you put the camera on the left or the right hand of the doors, you can get the doors. I would recommend the left side, that way there, you can get the 2 front doors and the walkway down to the police department all covered. Now, if you want additional to cover Rite Aid, you're definitely gonna need, like a bullet-style camera to get that far away. You're not gonna, I don't think you'll be able to do it with a dome camera, you'll be able to do it with a bullet camera.
I put it on just to see what everybody else is thinking, if they want it or not. I mean, I just rather have cameras where they're needed. I don't have access to, well, I'm sure I could, but I don't want the access to the cameras in town hall. I don't wanna be Big Brother. I think that, you know, put them where they're needed. I don't personally think they're needed everywhere in town hall. But if we could use some of those, but that's maybe a different discussion. I mean, that would,
Don't they have wireless cameras? Why do you have to go through the
Not in this
facade of
system,
the
not
front?
in this system, it's all wired, it's power over Ethernet, and it's more stable.
Yeah, because I talked about that when we talked about the bike path, because you have to be connected to
Wireless
something.
in this building will be very difficult because what's behind these walls, you know, the horsehair blaster, the year it was built, so you won't get the reception from here to there.
I guess the first question, does everybody want them? I mean, does everybody
I-
agree with this? or-
Personally, I believe every entrance downstairs
Yeah,
should have, because, let's just we've had people fall on our front stairs. may have not have found. We don't know. But that would save a lot of headache by saying, here's the footage, you know?
So what was the impetus to put them in the first place? I mean, I understand the common sense approach, and was there a committee that was formed? Is there a security committee? No
Dave, can I
offense,
answer
chief.
that?
Yeah,
I
but,
can answer that.
Go ahead.
What happened was when I first got here, it made me concerned, because when I came from Connecticut, I had cameras put in our town hall there, because there's a lot of money that goes in the town hall, in our department and in tax. So I wanted them there and in the main hallways and the entrances, so we started the project with the okay of the administration, and, I wanted 10 cameras is how I figured it when I worked with Ken Tavares, who works at Cox. I wanted 9 to 10 cameras in key places here. The package came with 14 cameras, and they said just put them everywhere. So technically, I have 4 camera capabilities that are just in different places, because we had the capability, why not use all 14? But we could use 4, and while you're right about the domes, they could maybe 2 and 2.
So are you saying that there's 4 cameras that could be maneuvered and put in different spots
Well,
now?
there-
There's one right here, Jen, it's just.
does that, do we ever close this off? I've never seen it
I only
closed off.
camera from there to here
put this one
facing,
here,
I never
It's
do the other one.
redundant, yeah.
Ever use, that could go. There's 4 of them that I could easily.
So that saves on the cost of the equipment.
Yeah,
We
that's
just
what
add
I'm
the
saying.
Right, okay.
service.
So you have to
But you might have
reassess.
to change the type of it. So who would, is that something that the town manager should take on?
Town manager will call them, get their sales rep. Again, it used to be Ken Tavares, he is no longer with the company. So they would reassign a sales rep that would come out here and do a walkthrough. The only expense it would be to the town is getting the wires to those locations. And I will say, that was done with one individual squeezing between this ceiling and that floor, on the second floor. And they shimmied through this entire building. And let me tell you, when that poor guy came out at 4 o'clock on a Saturday after being up there for about 4 to 6 hours, he was probably as dirty and as dark as my laptop case. It was all dust in there. So it's a matter of, can they get through there too? I don't know what's in between here and there. I'm not the guy up in there.
So is that something that we want to
Now,
check
can
out?
they do,
or
can they do
Commit-
can they do EMT or whatever? Can they do conduit? They can look at that. And in the last council meeting, when we walked out of here, I did take a look at the ceiling. I noticed there's caps all the way down and, covers on that side of the hallway. We have to take those caps, have somebody maybe have Jimmy take those caps down, take a look to see what's up there. And it might be something that's comes from here, layup sticks might be able to get you that far.
So Ernie, would you be the one organizing all this, or Mary Ann?
It's not much to organize. They were wonderful to work with. I did a walkthrough twice. He gave me a plan. We looked it over. I looked it over, I believe with Fred. And John, we agreed on the cost, and it was a package. It included everything, and then a monthly cost for the 14 cameras.
So when it
It
went
was
out-
seamless how well they put it together.
When it went out to bid, I'll say it here on the record, I recused myself, because there was 3 bids, or 2 bids that came back. And Councilman Giroux was actually the councilman spearheading a lot of this technology. And one of the things was that everything there was one bid that once they installed it, that's it, we owned it. And then the bid from us, Cox Communication, was simple, as long as you have a contract, all the equipment is covered. And we've
And
been out
support.
here, and if
And
any
call them on a dime.
problems,
They're great.
and they hear this within 24 to 48 hours, if it's a bad camera, they replace it, there's no fee to the town. That was the big difference, and that's what, there was a 5-year contract?
It
Or 3?
was 3 or 5.
3 or
I
5.
called them in the morning, and it's fixed. in
So
half an
you'll
hour.
be the point person for this to make the call?
I
If the
don't know.
council agrees that we should go this
I
route?
will help you in
or-
any way I can, I don't need to be, but I just felt they needed to be in here because of the amount of money in this building, was my biggest fear. And the bids were, the best bid was absolutely Cox, nothing came close to it, for the price too.
But does it make sense to draw other people into the conversation, even if you lead the way? Just, I mean,
I don't
Where
need
do
to
they
lead the
go?
way, I don't need to, you can do whatever you want.
I can tell you right now, if somebody calls up, puts the order in, the sales rep will come here
And
and
assess it.
design everything
Okay.
for you. He'll draw it, he'll put it on a Visio plan,
Yeah, that's
you
great.
sign off on it,
Well, why don't we have somebody make a call, and then we'll put it back on the next agenda and see what they
Yeah,
come up
that's
with.
all I'm asking. Who's gonna make the call?
And the only question is, the only direction,
Authorize
I'll get that squared away with that.
All right.
The only thing that I would need from the council, that Ernie would need from the council, is do you wanna cover the Rite Aid area? Do you wanna cover the back parking lot area? Do you wanna cover, just the front stairs? What do you wanna cover?
Why
Well,
don't
can't
we
they
get
give
a,
us multiple
yes,
pricing?
give us,
Like-
Yeah.
give us
So
Front door,
that's
back
choices.
door,
That's what I'm
parking lot.
saying.
Yes.
Yeah, I think all three
Don't
of
let
them.
them chase their tail, like, just say what you want as far as, coverage and pricing, and they can put all that together.
Well, I think those three are good spots, Rite Aid parking lot, front door, and in the back as well.
Does either chief wanna weigh in on this, seeing as your police station's here, the fire department's here? Do either
Are
of
there,
you
are there
have-
not
have
cameras
anything
behind,
to-
are there not cameras behind in the police station parking?
So the fire department has their own set of cameras
It's private property.
run by them.
But if the fire department
do.
is
We-
not
we-
covering a certain area that needs to be covered, to me, it doesn't matter if it's the town who's
Just,
putting this
I think
cameras
the
in.
council should also take into consideration, across the street is private property.
I was wondering
You might
about
have
that.
an
You're
issue
gonna
with the
get,
camera there.
who knows if you're gonna get pushback, but there are some signs up there right now saying that anybody trespassing is gonna be towed, but I don't think is really
Video
enforced.
can be trespassing. You can't even, so if you have,
So
if
that's
I
what-
have a camera in my
Unless
house.
they agree, unless they,
Well, all right, so that's another question. Whoever, can we find out who owns that property and make the, or put it in writing to them to see if they agree or disagree with this?
well, it's
Yeah,
gonna be,
it's
the
kinda like-
corporation, so.
Jay, if you put a camera on your house, if your neighbor finds out you're aiming it toward their house, they can file we're dealing with that down in Wesley now, where, condos, but they're putting it, instead of aiming at their door, they're aiming at somebody else's door.
Right.
Don't ask me why, but they're doing it. So, you get that situation.
Right, that's fine. If they say no, they say no, and that's
Yeah.
off
We
the
can reach
table.
out.
But if they agree with it, then that's something for us to talk about, so.
So we have a system that has 6 cameras. There are 2 outside in the front that hit the ramp from either side. There is a little bit of overage that gets to the street, so you can see the cars going. I don't think you can see into the parking lot, but you can see the cars on Main Street.
You see the crosswalk?
On the other side of the street, or on?
Where we would go, where we leave at night, can you see that?
It might get to the crosswalk, but I don't think you can see like the building or the parking lot.
Okay.
So, but you can see the cars going back and forth, I know that. So I'd have to go back and actually look for that to see if you can. We have 2 cameras inside on the apparatus floor. We have another camera in the fire prevention clerk's office. And then we have one in the rear that does show a good amount of the not the whole back parking lot, but really like right where the fire department cars park,
Okay,
in that area right there. So that's pretty much our system.
okay.
And the chief has a totally different system.
Yeah, we have a separate system that we monitor internally. We probably have about 24 or 25 cameras, but the bulk of that is our cell block, 2 cameras, one in each, in and outside of each cell, our evidence room, different hallways where prisoners come, and one in each hallway of our building. We have 3 cameras out back, one that monitors the north side of the lot, one pan tilt zoom camera that we can manipulate that covers this lot. It usually stays pretty static, but we can manipulate it when we need to. And then one that covers just our back door, so we can monitor people coming in and out. And then there's one camera out front that monitors the little walkway a little bit coming in, but it doesn't reach as far as the town hall entrance. And then I just had one installed 2 weeks ago for our lobby specifically.
If you go with a variable dome or, it depends, variable or fixed. If you go fixed, you might get more of a view. If you go variable actually lets you zone in or whatever. So to go the distance you want across the street, you would need variable.
This is all Greek to me, so all I'm just looking is we can make a phone call.
Variable lets you go in and out
Yeah.
and focus on a distance. Set, it automatically autofocus and it gets a certain area. It's just a matter of which way you aim it.
So- We should get the
Yeah,
provider
let's
in
get
here.
some
Let's do it,
prices
and
and-
let's
Yeah,
put it
yeah.
on the next,
Okay.
on the
Yeah.
next agenda.
It's easy enough.
Yes.
And for the record, I will recuse myself for anything on that matter. on the
Can I
bid.
say one more thing about Cox too? I had an idea of what I wanted when I called them and brought them in, and when they got the bid, and they educated me.
Sure.
And they said, you don't want that here, you don't want that there. I showed them everywhere where I thought they were important. Here's how you want that to be, here's where you want. So I think on the fronts and backs of the building, that, to tell them like what you want.
We think there may be some deficiency, they tell us what.
They just know
Yes.
so much more than
They're the
I-
professionals, I
yeah.
agree with you, Mary Ann. Yes.
Done? All right. So this is on the next agenda, is that what we said?
Yes.
Please.
Upcoming appointments, Sewer Use Appeals Board, 1 alternate member with a term to expire on 10/2021, 2 term to expire on 10/2020. Board of Tenant Affairs, 1 term to expire on 2/2021, public, 1 term to expire 11/2019, public. Recreation Committee, 2 full members. Pension Board Committee, 1 term to expire 11/18/2020, 1 term to expire 11/18/2021, and 1 term to expire 11/18/2022. Public comment, designated portion of town council's open meeting for citizens to address comments to the town council relating to matters affecting the public business. Comments will only be addressed to the town council, who will take them under advisement. When addressing the town council, please state your name and address. Please conduct yourself in an orderly and respectful fashion. The comments of the citizens accessing this portion of our meeting are neither adopted nor endorsed by this body, but heard as requested. Members of the town council, being the duly elected public body as identified in RIGL 42-46-23, have no obligation to respond to the public's comments.
Al? Well, actually. Go ahead.
Tim
Sorry about
suggested
that, Mr.
I make my comments for informational purposes under public comment. I want to start the council's year with a compliment. A couple months ago, the council amended our ordinance regarding the recycling bins in the town. Since you amended it, and the notices went out pursuant to your amendment, every charitable recycling operation has filed the necessary papers. Every commercial bin in the town has either paid the fine or the bin is removed. Chuck Davy now has a list of all the bins in the town, and we can go forward with our enforcement. So your amendment worked, and everything is now finally where we had hoped it would be.
Good.
It's
Thank
good
you, Al.
news.
Thank you.
Good evening. John Reed, 62 Andrews Avenue. I just looking for some clarification. I should have done it during the taxes. RT Noons, they have a tax address of 1 Noons Lane, which this council and the solicitor spent over $35,000 stating that there is no such address. So I'm just wondering how this could be taxed, and maybe you may want to look into it, on a piece of property that the town doesn't exist. I think that's kind of interesting.
Sal left, but that's a question for the tax assessor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alan Palazzo, 5 Robin Lane, West Warwick. And the subject tonight for me that I feel you might want to look into, maybe put it on the agenda for the next meeting, is the Factory Street Playground. I'm not going to get into correspondence from the Governor's Commission, et cetera. That's already been addressed, and I'm going to wait the 10 days. However, I do have a concern doing research with the actual construction of that playground. I'm not sure all of you are familiar with that process. An RFP went out. 4 companies responded. One bid was rejected out of hand. However, the winning bid, thank God I'm not a victim of the Common Core in math. However, I had basic arithmetic when I went to school. And looking at the numbers, the winning bid and the check from the town totaled $145,000. However, if you looked at that bid there was approximately $90,000 for the equipment, 89 and change, and then another 45,000 for the installation. Those two figures add up to, anyone want to take a guess?
$10,000 less.
There's a $10,000 disparity, but the check was cut for 145. So I think it's something that the council needs to look into and maybe address it at the next meeting when you address the actual shortcomings of the facility itself and how you're going to talk about that. Because you're talking about money. Mr. Maderas is looking to have his drainage fixed. There's some money right there. And that's all I'm going to say right now. It's something, you have access to the figures. It's easy, but as you noted, Mrs. Williamson, $10,000 is not change, small change. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Burton Mollahan, Monterey Drive, West Warwick. God, it's good to be back, I'll tell you that.
Welcome back, Bert.
I want to thank the town council for sending me a premium basket while I was home convalescing from my accident. Thank you very much, I really appreciated that.
It's well deserved. I hope you're doing much
You're
better. At least you're here and you're still our town sergeant.
Well, he gave me another day.
Yeah. Hopefully many more.
Good evening. Kevin O'Connell, 24 Sydney Street. I'm also the chairman of the West Warwick Police and Fire Disability Pension, and I'd like to address the council tonight about contagious matter that took place the other day at the pension board meeting, where they suspended public comment. Now, as you know, public comment is the only forum that a retiree or anybody that's going to be a retiree can address the pension board if we have an issue or an item that we want to bring up. So I thought it was a little ridiculous. I know why they did it. You may disagree with me, but I know why they suspended it for that particular meeting, and they've never suspended it before. But as you know, and I've emailed you all numerous things about the pension board, how crazy it is. I've had conversations with several of you about the pension board and what problems they have and which way they're going, which direction they're taking this pension. Some of you agree with me that we shouldn't be in the pension business. Can't agree with you more because it went from 100% now we're down to like 25%. But what concerns me the most is that the pension board doesn't even follow your own pension. And nobody seems to want to address that issue. Everybody tells me that it's an autonomous board, they can do what they want. Yeah, okay, if that's what you say, I'll go along with it. But what happens if they violate the pension, your pension plan, a document that you sign off when they redraft or the unions negotiate it? What happens if they don't follow it? If I don't follow it, you probably cut my benefits. If I don't go see a doctor, you probably cut my benefits. But what happens when the pension board doesn't follow it?
Do you have
a specific?
Specific or?
Yes.
'Cause
Yes, I do.
that could be so vague.
Okay. The pension board shall make an annual report to the town council setting forth the actions during the year, the status of the fund, and their recommendations. Have you ever got a report from the pension board?
The pension board itself, but no, the actuary, yes.
That's not from the pension board. It says that the pension board shall do that, not the actuary. And a lot of yous don't come to the meeting. I'm passionate about it. David, you know that. Mary Beth, you know about that. And Jason knows that. But when they don't follow it, they're not supposed to discriminate in this
pension plan either. But I want to give you a little history and tell you why I'm so upset. That in October of 2011, I received a letter from the pension board. And it says they were investigating whether I should be getting longevity and holiday pay in my pension. Now, I had been receiving longevity and holiday pay.
Is this you specifically, Kevin?
This is
Or would
every.
this be everybody? Or this-
Sorry, this is every retiree,
All right.
disabled retiree. Regular retirees, they left alone. They get longevity and holiday pay. Disabilities, we were sent this letter. And I was a detective with the West Warwick Police Department. It says, based on only a portion of documents, that we're taking away your longevity and holiday pay. Taking it away. And they did. The following month, I got almost $500 less in my pension. And I won't bore you with all of it. But it says, finally, as mentioned above, an investigation of the disability pension benefit is ongoing. Once the investigation is completed, your disability payment may be subject to further modification and calculation. Well, I know when I was a policeman, if I conducted an investigation and before I was done, I went and arrested you. I said, hey, frig it, I don't like Jason. I'm just going to arrest him before I do the investigation, put the handcuffs on you, take you to court. First of all, chief would fire me or be suspended or something. They just took my money away. It says in the pension that before they take any benefits away, they will give me a hearing. They will let me know before they take it away. No hearing, no notification in writing. They just took it away. My group, who was only 16 at the time, had to spend over $39,000 for an attorney to fight this. And it went on and on and on. And you all got it because it was given to Mr. I can give you all the names that were sent to council members, attorneys, Angelo Padula, Philomena Gustafson, David Goslin, Ed Giroux, Mark Burgett, James Thomas, Tim Williamson, Jeff Castle, and Joseph Pessa. That's who got this. That's what I got. If you ever want to read it, I think some of you's got it. I gave it to you a while ago. I don't know if you read it or not, but that's what happened. But no hearing, no nothing. Just took my money away, $39,000 later. 2.5 years in court, no resolution. Back and forth in court, back and forth. Then 2014 rolls around, and the town is in crisis. I'm still without my longevity and holiday pay. The regular retirees still have their holiday pay and longevity. We're in court, and I tell Mr. Goslin and Mary Beth from Gologly and Mr. Dolan, hey, Kevin, you got to negotiate with us. Town's in real trouble. I said, I can't negotiate with you. How can I negotiate with you when you already took over $400 away from me a month? What more do you want me to give you? I know you want concessions, but how much more can I give you? I can't. How can I negotiate when I'm already $400 in the hole? I can't tell my guys to negotiate with you. So Mr. Dolan pleads, Mary Beth pleads, Fred Presley pleads.
Mary Ann, right? Is it Mary Ann?
Mary Beth Gologly, right?
Yeah, just for the record, it's not
not
Mary
me.
Beth.
No, not Mary. No,
Everybody keeps looking at her.
no,
Not Mary Beth.
no. Department of Revenue from the state.
Rosemary.
Rosemary, thank you.
Gologly.
See, I got you on the mind, Mary Beth.
Eh, well, it's okay, Kevin.
You know,
Yeah.
you're very popular.
Yeah.
So we negotiate with Fred. Fred says, let's sit in our office. How can we make this right? I said, Fred, we can't make it right. We're in litigation. We're in litigation. How can we make this right? He says, maybe we can settle the court deal. I says, how? How are we going to do that? He says, "Well, how about," I said, "Well, what do you need from us?" I says, "What do you want me to tell all the disabled guys? What do you need from us?" He said, "Well, I want 5% from everybody, 5%. And I hate to bore you with this. I usually go to the pension board, but they took that right away, so I can't talk to them anymore. So,
They took it away for one meeting.
well, we don't know that. He said maybe we'll put it back and, when he feels right about it. Yeah.
What was the reason they took that? What
So
was,
that-
I don't
that-
understand.
So just before we move on, just to get, because I received phone calls, I
Yeah.
received everything. I've talked to numerous people about that meeting, including Al Haru, the chairman.
And they said I
It
threatened
was a
them.
special meeting because of the fact that the stuff that they could not vote on because it was a vague agenda, and Mr. O'Connell, you did bring that up, and you're the one who actually had that agenda changed. So the next meeting, just.
Only
like-
because I didn't want them to violate like you did.
That's
Yep.
correct.
And
So-
you corrected, I'm not
Yeah,
saying you
I
did right,
didn't do it
wrong,
viciously.
No.
I
You-
did it.
You did a good thing. So the next meeting, it was kind of like a special meeting, it was at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. At that time, just like when we have special meetings, we don't put public comment on. So the chairman decided to not put public comment on his own as the chairman of the board. Because they wanted to come in, vote on the matters, and go back, because it was not a regular meeting. And what he explained to me over the phone was, this is not gonna be a routine issue. Was that one meeting. Mr. O'Connell got up, he wanted to speak about a couple of different things. There was a couple of things that happened in the meeting, first and foremost, that irritated some people. And then he also wanted to discuss 4 individuals that, he's been disputing with the pension
I
board.
think that
over the
number's
past few
increased
years.
now.
And so, at that time, he was very upset that he was unable to speak, because Mr. Haru said, we do not have public comment on the agenda. And then at that time, it did get heated between everybody, and at that point, there was members of that board who actually felt unsafe, and I totally agree, I know you're passionate about it.
I correct you on that. They didn't feel unsafe. They wanted to have a vote. They wanted to allow me to speak.
No, actually, we received an email from one individual who actually resigned because she felt unsafe up here.
Oh, the one that went like this to me.
Okay, but meanwhile, and Kevin, let me explain something.
Can I ask you why she felt that?
I don't know.
Can I just make a comment, please, before we go any further? What Mr. O'Connell says to this board is fine. However, remember, the public body that he wishes to address his concerns with is the pension board, not you guys.
I understand.
I just want to let you know, you have no supervision, control, jurisdiction, or advisory power over the pension board.
I respect that,
Okay.
Mr. Solicitor, but I'm just explaining.
No, that's fine.
What
I
happened
just
at
want-
that
like I
meeting,
said,
so the council
he
was
can
aware.
he can comment, make any statement he wants. but-
Yeah, I don't want you to speak.
And I said, and I know Mr. O'Connell was passionate, because I spoke to one individual, I said, I understand. But I also made comment to individuals up here that sit up here. There are some individuals, and not you specifically, Mr. O'Connell, but there are some people that I've seen in the back who have yelled up to that pension board, name calling, whatever. Now and I have explained to Mr. Haru, as chairman, you need to get that under control. I've had it here as a council president. Unfortunately, we've had to have asked people to leave, whatever. If you're not being professional in the audience, the same thing up here. If they're not being professional, they should be asked to leave. And the pension board is a full volunteer system. Now, let me tell you this. We've put applications out there. Nobody's filling the roles of those pension board members. Yes, we agree with you. We should not be in the pension board business. But why we have a pension board right now, at least they can conduct business. If 2 of those members walk away, and which they almost did after last meeting, if they walk away, we cannot conduct any business in the pension, and that is not fair to any person who's a pensioner in this community.
What would happen if they did all walk away?
We're screwed.
No, what happened?
We're
That's it?
screwed.
Just screwed?
Don't answer that.
I answered it. We're screwed.
So nobody will
We
ever get a
can't
pension?
conduct, according to our charter, the town manager cannot conduct any business. The town council, it's an autonomous board, they are responsible. We would have to appoint a board. The problem is, you're not getting people filling out that application, because, let's face it, we've had some people on there, and some very good people, employees, who once went on there, said, I can't do this. This is a stressful matter. We've had numerous employees and people who really care about that pension walk away from that pension board.
What makes it so stressful? Because I ask hard questions?
No.
Make a decision, make
it's a tough decision up there, and it's a volunteer system. And again, you might ask the hard questions, but there are other individuals that are sitting back there yelling, screaming, calling names, resign, do this. And as a volunteer sitting up there, honestly, do they have to take it? No, they can just walk away and say, I resign. And right now, we need that pension board to at least do the daily functions, because people are retiring. And if there's nobody here, we can't approve that pension. We went through it, the news media got it, and you know, people have come to me and said, just letting you know, the news media is coming to talk about not being able to have a quorum at the council, at the pension meetings. So if we don't have that quorum, there's no business to be conducted. There's nothing we can do.
I understand that, David, but you even told me about one member, that you weren't happy with that person applying to the board, and that person was appointed. But don't comment on it, I'm just telling you
I'm not
that here's my biggest problem. I had a member of the board call me, and she says, I don't know if I can talk to you about this, but she says, in executive session, she says, it's a dictatorship. I said, that shouldn't happen. And I said, you got to let people know. She said, I'm afraid to. I said, she says, it's a dictatorship in there. It's run by one person only. I said, well, that's not right. You have a right to voice your opinion. And I says, that is not right. And then when I asked Mr. Hero about the other day about an item that's not in the court yet, we haven't filed suit. So it's open game. We can talk about it. It's not in a lawsuit right now. We should be able to talk about it, right? Have an open discussion. And he tells me that him and the secretary investigated it and determined that the person wasn't supposed to get the benefit. And I said, well, what is the secretary investigating? She's an administrative clerk. What is she investigating? Whether this person is entitled to this benefit?
Well, the
And
clerk-
that brings
the
me
clerk-
to-
The clerk is responsible for making sure that whoever, let's just say a retiree, that whatever contract they retire, that whatever benefit, that should be going down to the finance department, and everybody should be getting together. And when you retire, you know, you get a piece of paper that says, this is what you should be getting, and blah, blah, blah. The clerk puts that stuff together with the finance department.
Agreed. She doesn't do investigative work.
No, and again, I don't know if they used the wrong word on that, Mr. O'Connell. I mean, investigative and
He said it.
looking into it.
And
And
to-
again, it could be a wording issue.
And to look at the woman that said that she felt threatened, if you look at the tape, but I could only see 55 minutes of it, I tried to get it longer, and it stalls.
They shut it
55
down.
minutes and it
Yeah,
ended.
somebody shut it down wrong, and when I went in to get it, because it was lost.
Well, my granddaughter watched the whole thing.
I watched the whole thing too, but when they went to cut it, because it was shut down, they cut off the last 8 minutes. So I had to put up the 55 minutes, because that's all they could
Who
get.
cut it?
I have no idea, but I watched it. And
Because
then-
that's a relevant part where I was supposedly
Very.
threatened somebody. But
I honestly, Mr. O'Connell, I wasn't told you threatened, I was told
No, I
you were
wasn't
very
either.
upset. And I even said, Mr. O'Connell's very passionate about this pension, and rightfully so, he's representing 20-something members, and he's gonna be passionate. For the most part, I mean, you and I have had our arguments
We have.
and discussions, and I know when you get heated, and I understand it.
But here's-
It's your lively, and the way I said it, and I said it to Anne Marie, and not Anne Marie, that's her daughter, Mrs. Kelsey, and I said, I understand pension and anything, cut, improved, whatever it is, it affects livelihoods. And so that's a tough job to sit up there as a pension board member. And I totally understand, in 2011, if you got cut that money, that affects your month-to-month livelihood.
do you realize it was wrong? That they're doing an investigation and they cut it? Can you agree that that was wrong?
Don't respond to
I
that.
can't-
Don't respond to that, that's okay. That's okay. I'm telling you, I think it's wrong, because I would never do an investigation like that. And Chief, I don't think you would let any of your detectives do an investigation like that. But here's the next thing. Do you think it's fair that I asked them 18 months ago, when we signed the MOU, where everybody was happy, I thought I was going to go on with my life and never have to go to another pension board meeting again, because I was done. Because I've been following this pension since 1993, probably as long as Mr. Palazzo and Mr. Kelsey. I thought I was done. I said,
I told my wife, I said, "Oh, we're done. We got an MOU now. Hon, I don't have to go to any more of these friggin' meetings. I can stay home." Well, it didn't happen. But certain guys didn't go to court. And I just wanted to find out. I said, "Oh, I wonder what happened to those, excuse my words, poor bastards, that didn't sign the MOU. What happened to them? You know, did they get to 2020 that the former manager was going to inflict on us if we didn't negotiate with them? That was the threat or the language they were using. 20% benefits, 20% into healthcare if you didn't negotiate with the town to give up benefits. That's what prompted everybody to negotiate. So some guy said, "No, I'm going to stay where I am, Kev. I don't want you assessing me $100 a month." So I had to get $1,000 up front to pay an attorney, $10,000 up front for a retainer. So they elected not to. So I just wondered what happened to them. So I asked the pension board, I said, "Could you tell me what happened to those 4 guys? Here's their names that didn't join the organization. You know, are those poor son of a guns getting to 2020? What happened to them?" Well, I don't know if you think this is a fair timetable, but 18 months go by. Again, maybe I'm browbeating the pension board. I'm asking, could you tell me what happened to those individuals? Could you tell me what happened to those individuals? Could you tell me what happened to those individuals? Kevin, we've never heard from all you people. We never heard from the town council. We send them emails, they never respond back to us. We don't know what's going on. I said, really? Really? Another month goes by, I come back, and I ask them, "Did you hear from the town council?" Nope, they never got back to us. So I get up, and I was passionate. I said, 18 months, enough is enough. I started yelling at them, and I stormed out, and I met David in the hallway.
I think I was here that night, and I came up and asked why.
Right, why are you so upset?
And nobody blamed the town council that night when I was standing in front of that
Correct.
microphone. I said, "Why can you not give Mr. O'Connell an answer? He's asking for a simple question. What happened to those 4 to 6 individuals?"
And what did we do, David? We went to the second floor, and you said, "Ernie's still here. They just had a meeting with Ernie." I said, "Who did?" He said, "The pension board." I said, "No, that's impossible, because he just told me you people won't get back to them." So the pension board would not lie to me. Come on. They wouldn't lie to Kevin O'Connell. I'm a pensioner. They got to be taking care of me. So he says, "No, wait a minute. Ernie's still upstairs. Let's go." We go up to Ernie's door. He's rapping on the door. No Ernie. Gets on his cell phone. "Ernie, where are you?" "I'm in the back parking lot. I'm leaving." He says, "Did you just have a meeting with the pension board?" He goes, "Yeah, I did." "Did you discuss the opt-out guys?" That's what we call them. Guys that opted out of the MOU that went to court in front of Judge Rubin. He says, "Yeah, we just talked about them." I said, "Well, that's crazy."
And that is a fact.
That is a fact, right? I'm not lying. I'm
No,
not
that is-
embellishing
I'm-
anything.
Standing right there, word for
Right.
word, that's exactly how it
So
was.
they lied to me, right to my face. And I wondered why. Why would they lie to a pensioner? If they lied about this, what else are they lying about? Okay? Why am I passionate? That's why. So I bring it up at the meeting. What are you going to do now that you know? And he admitted to me, they did some checking, and they found out that they're getting the same benefit as my guys. I said, "Well, how could they? How could they get the same benefit? They didn't go in front of Judge Rubin, Superior Court. I have the document right here, where you have to sign on the dotted line that you agreed to these terms." I said, "How could they possibly get these?" "Oh, we don't know who did it." I said, "Well, you're the pension board. You're the people that approved benefits. You had to do it." "No, we didn't do it. We didn't do it." I said, "Okay, then you're going to investigate what happened?" "Well, we really don't know what to do. What do you want us to do?" I said, "I can't tell you what to do. I'm a pensioner. I'm not on the pension board." I said, "But you should check out what benefits these guys are getting. If they're getting the benefit that these guys are getting that went to court, that's not right, is it? My guy spent over, I think on this lawsuit, it was $37,000. So we got $39,000 on the first one, $37,000 on this one. Still assessing my members. They're paying God knows fees to me every month, so I can pay the lawyer. And they had it on every agenda. Last agenda, it's off there. What? Why? It's not a solved matter. It's not been solved. Still don't know. Matter of fact, one of the guys called me. One of the guys called me that's getting the benefit, and I had, out of the clear blue, after 4 years, calls me and says, hey, I need to join your organization. I says, why? I said, I haven't heard from you for, he said, I know, I've been a big mistake. I didn't do the MOU and I think I'm getting some benefits that you guys are getting, but I don't think I'm getting all the benefits. I said, what? He said, yeah, can I meet you? So I met him at the FOP. I think, George, you were there. So I'd have a witness of what took place. So we came in. He said, I don't know what I'm getting. He said, I'm getting some of it, but I'm not getting everything that. So I showed him the MOU. I said, I'm not supposed to be showing you this, but you're a firefighter, you're a fellow firefighter. Why not share a little bit? I want to join. I'll pay anything. I said, whoa, I said, what am I going to charge you? $10,000? I'm not like that. I said, let's see what benefits you're getting. Let's see what benefits you're getting and what you're not getting. He said, well, I'm not getting the same thing as you. I said, well, I don't know that. Bring me in the paperwork. So never heard from him again. So he's still out there wandering. Don't know what he's getting. Pension board won't tell me what he's getting. Nobody will admit to me that, other than Al finally after he met with Ernie, and he says, you're not going to like what we're going to tell you, Kev. I said, whether I like it or not, doesn't matter. It's what's right. Just tell me. I have an inclination what they're getting. I really do. I was only a detective, but I was a pretty good one. I said, I kind of know what they're getting. If they were getting the 2020, believe me, my phone would be off the hook, saying, hey, they just reduced my pension by 20%, and I pay 20% into healthcare. I knew that didn't happen. So there was only other option. Either they went back to this, the 2011, where they took away longevity and holiday pay, because he's the one who got this letter too. They all got it. Everybody was on disability. Or they gave him what my guys got. And come to find out, they didn't go back to this, which was the governing body, because as of 2020, this is still an ongoing investigation. Never got clarification that it ended from the pension board. Never said we resolved it. But I can tell you one thing. In the new police contract, you know what a disabled person gets? Does anybody know? You negotiated it.
It's actually right here in this bid.
Yeah, they get longevity and holiday pay as part of their disability. Something I had been receiving all along, but the pension board went and took it away, and now they gave it back to regular disabled guys. Am I bitter? Yes, ma'am, I'm bitter. Do I have a right to be bitter? I'll let you be the judge of that. I'll let you be the judge of that. But if it happened to you from your employer, you'd be bitter too. I worked for this town. I hope I did a good job for this town. And this is the way we're treated. It says you should not discriminate. You should not discriminate in this pension board. But we've been discriminated by. And it continues. And I don't know who's going to solve this. Maybe when we get into the MERS, if we do. But that's another question. And let's bring up NIOT. NIOT had that we were going to look for a 7.5% return on our investments. I'm sure if you looked at the tape, I told them they were living in a fantasy world because I looked at the chart when NIOT was here. You know how many years in 5 years we met the 7.5%?
10 years. 10 years.
No, in 5 years since the plan, they were reaching 7.5, 1 year. 1 year. So I said, why are we still?
What year was that?
2016, I think. Let's see. I got so much paperwork, excuse me. Yep, 1450.
It was 8%.
Right. That's it. That's the only time. I said, well, as a pension board, why would you allow NIOT, who you pay a lot of money to, continue to, and also their investor was here for this year. They were here a month earlier than them. They told them to expect a really bad year this year because of the election year.
What?
Those are the investors, because of the election year. That's what they,
That's ridiculous.
well, I'm just telling you what the
I
investors.
play the market.
I know you do. I know you do. We won't get into that.
I can't believe that.
Yeah, so the
My phone
investor.
is doing much better after the last election myself, so.
So the investor says, expect, don't meet that return again for this year.
I would have
So-
fired him right there.
You
I
would?
would've.
If I was on the board with you, I'd fire him too.
I was on the
Absolutely.
board.
I know you were. I know you were.
He did a hell of a good job when I was on that board.
Like I said, I would have fired him. But I asked him, I said, well, why would you continue to allow NIAT to do a 7.5% return when you know you're not going to make, when you're not going to make that benchmark? I said, that's kind of, I said, we're living in a fantasy world, and you're letting the council live in a fantasy world if you're allowing that to happen, correct? If you're expecting a 7.5% and you can't make it, and your investors are saying you can't make it, we're living in a fantasy world.
That's like us doing a budget and saying we got 100% collection rate.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So why would you want to, and I'm not saying they're lying to you, but why would you want to present this to a town council where you know you're not going to make 7.5%? Everybody knows. I think we would get more response and better, whatever I say goes on deaf ears. I get that. I get it. I do. And please don't try to tell me the contrary because I made up my mind already. But that's okay. I just feel if my fellow pensioners or the current people that are going to get a pension from this town would take some interest, maybe we could get everybody to listen to us and voice our concerns at a louder level. I try not to have my guys come because, as you know, a lot of them are very boisterous. And I try not to get them to the point of the point, but I do ask hard questions. And these I gave you tonight are all hard questions that I've never had answers to. I continue to don't get answers, and nobody seems to want to give answers. They're an autonomous board. I don't know what that means, but they can do what they want, I guess.
But they also meet the same criteria as we do if you fill out the proper paperwork and get that request. They do have 10 days to get that response. Now, the other question I do have, and this is probably for the finance and the solicitor. All pays and salaries, are they public record as long as it's redacted as far as social security number and whatever? So if Mr. O'Connell put in a request for so-and-so, whoever it may be, could be those 4 ladies and gentlemen that you're concerned with, could he ask for their benefit package?
Salaries, yes. Pension, I'd have to check, but I'm pretty sure that they can, but I'm not.
So, and that's what.
But again, that usually it's just a round
In
number,
which I don't
whatever
think
your
you
benefit
ever,
is.
I know you've come to the mic and asked. I just don't think if you fill out the proper paperwork, you have more leg to stand on, I would probably say. Coming up to the microphone, again, you can come up here, talk till you're blue in the face to whoever you want. If it's not filled out on paper and saying I'm requesting this by law, the town has 10 days to respond. At that point, the pension board would have 10 days to respond. And if they need more time, if it's, and again, with pension and salaries, it's just a matter of going down to the finance department, and I'm sure they can get that information for whoever requests it. So you would request it based to the pension board, and then they got 10 days to respond, and they'd get that information from the finance department. Am I wrong, Kristen?
Yeah, spreadsheets going very, very far back with everyone's wages.
That's, you know, so I'm telling you, Mr. O'Connell, I think the proper way is to fill out that paperwork.
But I don't have to anymore because the pension board told me that they're getting my benefit.
But if you want to see it in writing yourself.
But why would I?
Why
There's
wouldn't
a
you?
real,
At this point, Mr. O'Connell, I know you've been fighting for almost 2 years to get this information. Why wouldn't you want it in black and white?
See, I wasn't looking to get the information. See, that's where you're wrong.
No,
Mr. President Gaza, if I may,
Yeah,
you're bordering on providing this gentleman with legal advice, which you're not supposed to do at this part of the public comment. So again, Mr. O'Connell is free to say what he wants to say.
Thank you, right.
But
I guess I'm done talking about it.
Tim and I don't agree with much, but I agree with him on that. But I don't know where to voice my opinion anymore. I mean, he said he'll put it back when he wants to. He said to you, I guess, it was only one meeting.
That's,
You know, he told me, you know what he told me? Call Tracy and she'll put whatever you want on the meeting. I can call, that's what he said. If you can look at that, did you see that? You looked at the whole picture for me. You can call Tracy and she'll put whatever you want on the agenda. I said, really? I said, I can call Tracy Smeals and she'll put whatever I want? Yeah, just do it. I said, wow, that's going to be a long meeting.
probably.
Because I told the regular retirees, I says, if they're not going to do public comment anymore, I says, Al told me that, just call Tracy and she'll put whatever you want to ask on the meeting. So, again, am I concerned? Yeah.
I will say this, we as a town council and pension board, whatever, public comment is not legal.
I
You don't-
understand that.
You don't have to put it on.
Right.
And we do. There's been discussion in the past that we remove public comment, in general, but majority of the council feels
I just think it's a
that.
disservice to the public
And
if you don't.
And I agree. If somebody's gonna come sit here and for hours to listen to us, and I give them 5 minutes up here to give what they want. Now, we don't have to respond, we can do however we wanna handle that, but at least we give you that decency to come up and speak your voice and listen.
That's real democracy.
That's right, and when you
It's
take
been
that
in the
away.
past where people have talked about removing it, and I think, and I know we haven't had that discussion with this council in general, but Jay, I think it happened a few years back where a couple of people wanted to remove it, and I still disagree. Now, the only thing I agree with is if somebody's getting up there and being unprofessional, vulgarity, calling names, I have had, unfortunately, I've had to ask people to leave.
Now-
It's the last thing I want to do in this world. The last thing I want to do is throw somebody out of here, especially after spending a couple hours here.
That's what you got the sergeant for.
And
Exactly.
that's what he's here.
Can I ask a question? And maybe Tim can answer this. And maybe you can't. And if you don't, that's okay too. If I feel that the pension board is not following the pension, who do I file a complaint with?
Not answering that one, Kevin.
Okay. Okay.
You're gonna have to check with your attorney.
I don't have attorney on that matter. I don't even have an attorney. Mrs. Kelsey has the attorney. I'm just paying her bills. No, I'm just wondering, because if they can just violate this piece of paper, and you know, while we're on that, let's just do one more thing. Boy, I wasted a lot of your time tonight. This revised pension, I've talked to you before about it. It was done in 2017. We requested from the pension board when they finished it to get a copy of it, because I said, look, if we see a potential problem before you give it to the town council,
Is that the redraft?
the redraft, I says, if we see a potential problem with it, could we see it first, and then we can discuss it if we think there could be a problem or anything? They said, oh, yeah, you can have it. So they were gracious enough. They said, it's all done. We're going to give it to you. And they said they gave it to you and the unions and everybody, the regular retirees got it. And I looked it over. There were a few things that I had concerns about, but there wasn't an issue up until 2019 that came to effect. And then I looked in the revised pension plan, and how do I want to go there? And just let me speak, because I don't want Tim to say, you know, you can't address this. But in the revised pension plan under RMOU, it said that commencing
July 1st, 2019, I would get a 2% COLA. And I did. And not that I didn't trust the pension board, I called every one of my members, okay? Just to make sure, because I'm responsible to them. And they all said yes. I called the widow, and she said she didn't. I said, okay, I said, I'll take care of it. Went to the council. They said they had no objection to it. Do you remember that? But you couldn't. And then we changed our mind. But that's okay, too. That's okay. No hard feelings. But then I went and looked at the revised pension plan, and it says in there, and the attorney for the pension board, now you gotta remember this revised pension plan has cost the pension board $46,000 right now, and it continues to run. And it was done in 2017, it's 2020. And in the amendment, it says that I will get my 2% COLA or a survivor. Now I said, well, maybe a survivor doesn't mean what it means. So I went and looked, and the attorney for the pension board had done all the definitions of what certain terms in the pension board and in the pension meant. And she outlined them. And it said survivor. And it said, person that's survived by a pensioner. It's in there. So I said, well, why isn't she getting it? So I brought it up to the pension, because I didn't want, why should I file a lawsuit when you don't have to, if it's clear cut? So I brought it to him. I says, I read over your pension plan. It says in there that, they said, well, Kevin, did the town council adopt it? That's what the pension board. I said, no. I said, they didn't. So I said, oh, it's not supposed to be in there? They said, well, did the town council adopt it? I said, well, is it not supposed to be in there? Because I said, if it's not supposed to be in there, I said, you paid this woman a lot of money, $46,000, to interpret my MOU and put it in there. Because it's in there. And it's in the other MOU too, the survivor, for regular retirees. Survivor is a survivor. So, do I think when you get, there might be a revised pension? It may be omitted. You know that as well as I know that. Okay? You know that as well as I know that. If they're telling me you didn't do it, it's going to be omitted from this revised pension plan to the new revised pension plan. Okay?
I will say this, and it has nothing to do with that 2% whatsoever. I asked when we're gonna get the revised redraft, because why that was being drafted, there was 3 contracts, 2 have been settled since. They actually have to go in and change the redraft based upon the new contracts. Now, how long that's taking? I mean, we've settled on those contracts now going back almost 4 months, 3 months, 4 months, and we haven't seen the actual redraft as of today.
But I guarantee you, the councilors, that will be omitted. It will. And my question to them was, if she did it by mistake, fire her. Because you just paid $46,000 for a piece of garbage. Piece of garbage, $46,000. Piece of garbage. Did they fire her? No, she continues to sit there. Best of luck to us in West Warwick. And I don't know if we're going to get into the MERS, but God help us if we don't.
Thank you, Kevin.
I want to say one thing, and it's not really addressing anything that you've brought up, but having been on the council going on my 4th year, that particular board, there's been a lot of movement on that board. And I'm not defending anyone, but somebody new that comes on, and maybe you can agree, you come on and you don't know the history of what has happened, and even being a councilman. I mean, I know it's baptism by fire sometimes. You don't know the history of what happened 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, just say something, they get a packet every time you come on the board. It's their job to sit on that board, to read it. None of them have read it.
I'm just
So
saying.
that doesn't cut.
No, I'm not making
All right,
excuses.
Kevin,
I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying that there is a lot going on, and some of the history gets lost. Because there's a lot of history here. Like, you're going back to, like, you're saying 93. And again, we've had conversations, you know, and you've asked me questions, I don't know the answers. I'll be very honest with you, you know, I'm gonna try and find out, but I won't know it tomorrow. I mean, some of this takes a lot of time to find out what's going on. Because you're going back to names that I couldn't even tell you if they walked in here right now. That's not my fault. You know, it's just, here's where we are right now. So.
Bert?
Bert Monahan, Monterey Drive, West Warwick, President Goslin, and the alderman. You know, David, you're right. Being on the pension board is a tough job because you're living in the community, you know the people, and especially if you're an ex-businessman and you're on that board, and you got to make decisions that you know are going to hurt one of your friends. It's a tough job to do. And I'm sitting here, and when he mentioned that their manager who manages their pension money, and he said they're lucky if they were going to make any money this year. That's ridiculous. I would have fired that guy on the spot if I had been on the board. And I was, Stephen Alves was president, and I was vice president. And we, at that time, were the only ones that had fully funded the pension fund right up until about 2098, and then we hit the crash. And then when the crash, 98, we hit the crash, we only lost about a third of what we had, which was pretty good. Most brokers lost a half or even three-quarters, so we did pretty well. And then I got into politics around 2002, and at that time there was a big push on to get the managers into the pension fund. Well, at that time they'd get into the pension fund and they'd get vested on the pension. And then after 10 years, then they would screw us and go someplace else, and we'd have to pay them a pension.
That's been eliminated. That's been eliminated. They go into their own pension system. Any department head hired here now goes into their own, what's the name of it again, Ernie? It's
Well,
ICMA. They go to the ICMA.
that's why I wanted them
If
to.
they move on to somewhere
Yeah.
else, they can take it with them and bon voyage.
But Stephen and I, we were definitely against that. And his term was up 2 years after mine. Mine was up in 2002. Anyways, the new administration came in, and I guess the department heads, they all got together along with their friends, and they wouldn't reappoint me to the pension, but I was on there for 10 years. But that's neither here nor there. I love this old town, believe me. Anyways, I wouldn't mind going to one of those pension meetings if that guy who's handling the, and not micromanaging them, but he could have went into the diamonds, or he could have went into the spiders. He could have went into the 500 index was paying out 24% this year, 24%. What the hell? I don't understand. Did anybody question that?
Yes.
Mary Beth and I sat in.
Did you question that at all?
Yes.
Yes.
That's ridiculous.
I-
This
I-
is the best
I just wanna-
market I've ever seen in my 89 years on earth.
I want to point out a few different things. I know not every council member can get to the meetings. We can't get to every single meeting. I've been to a few, I'm not going to deny that, but I also watch from home when I get a chance. It's been a very hectic year. 2019 was probably my most hectic year in my life ever. But I will say, I'll watch it, maybe not that night, it could be a couple of nights later. Al Haru, whether people like him or dislike him, will come here at 6 o'clock at night and work until midnight. I've been here, I've met him here at 10 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night, and he's here working with Tracy on matters and trying to get answers for things. I never seen that before. And whether, it may have happened before, but I have never seen it before. Going back when I first became a councilman after, 2006, walked in this building. I sat here and I listened to the pension board say, don't give us anything right now because we don't need it, we're doing good. And you know, Wolfgang Bauer was here. And, you know, and that opened up the council in to say, okay, if they don't need it, let's spend it elsewhere. And we used it elsewhere, unfortunately, we did. And that was probably one of the biggest mistakes I could say as a councilman that I made, was we should have just put that $1 million in there. Even if they didn't need it, just put it in there. It would have been much different. It was actually $2 million at the time. And it slowly went down to $1.5 million. Councilman Kelsey sat here, and I'll give him the props. He was the only council member who said, don't cut anything out of there, keep going, keep going. And he crucified us council members who decided to make those changes. The station fire came along, we had to pay that bill.
Yeah.
How much we didn't want to put that on the taxpayers' dime. Where did we take it from? Everybody knows where we took it from. We took it from the pension contribution of $2 million down to 1.5. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Because council members at the time felt, we're not gonna hit the taxpayers with this, but unfortunately, we hit the pensioners with it. Because they kept saying, don't give us the money, don't give us the money. And then, whether you like Alan or don't like Alan, he sat here at this podium numerous times, scolding me, councils before us, numerous times. You know, it's unfortunate. We have learned from the sins of our past, not just me, council members before me, going back to 1990s to 2000s to here we are, 2020. You know, and I think within the last 6 to 7 years, the councils that have been here finally realized that we can't continue doing what we're doing and destroyed that. I mean, Kevin, yes, the payouts might be getting to that margin again where it's almost even, if not a little higher, but we were putting $2 million in, paying out $5 million.
Right, I remember that.
You know, anybody who has a household knows if you're making $2,000 a month and you're paying $3,000, it's only a matter of time before you say bye-bye to the household.
Yeah.
You know, but again, this council and previous councils to this have continued to meet that arc, and we're gonna continue. And it's a commitment we made. Now, MERS is coming up, MERS has been a strong thing in our hearts the past couple of months, and talking about it and really pushing it with the town manager. But there's gonna be a fiducial expense to that where it's gonna say the town needs to pay 12 million, 14 million. We can't say no. It's gonna be a bill coming our way if we go into the MERS. You gotta pay it. And that's gonna protect, because
Who's looking into this, Bruce? I never heard of this. What is this? A new
MERS
one?
is the state. Yeah, it's for the, it's on the state level. And some cities and towns are in it also. Let's just say.
Did they take over the whole pension board then, or
There's
just?
no pension board.
Yes, they would take over the whole,
It'd
we
be
would
all
not be
the
in the
state,
business.
look at the state returns, about 3% higher than our returns.
Right.
Somewhere in there about that. They're in a bigger pot,
No, I understand that.
obviously, you know all that.
Yeah.
Let's just say 5 of us go tomorrow, 5 of us walk out of here tomorrow. And new council comes in, it's a rogue council. They don't want taxes, they don't want this, they don't want that. And all of a sudden, and Kevin, this will probably throw you over the edge. They're gonna say, we're not putting 10 million in, we're putting 5. There's no ifs, ands, or buts, and we're gonna give the money back to the taxpayers. There'll be a revolt from the pensioners, there will.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're finally
That's for sure.
contributing the arc that they've always wanted.
Yeah.
You know, we as a council have committed to that, the school department is committed to it, whether, and the pension board will understand that, we're not here to cut it, and this council here, I will say, has done the right thing. And the previous councils up, right? What's that?
Pension board doesn't want MERS.
No, we do away with the pension board, right?
I can't agree or disagree with that, I don't know, it's not their decision. If the town goes that direction, it's actually the pensioners, we need the buy-in from the employees and the pensioners.
Would you have to change the charter to do that?
I don't think so.
It's a
something we have to
good
discuss.
question.
And that's gonna be on the next agenda, if you could put charter review committee on the next agenda.
I think it all starts on chapter supply and pension. Instead of actually where it comes from.
Yeah, it doesn't say where it comes from, right, it just has to, we have to supply it.
Because you used to give us annuities.
And again, you know, as I said to Mrs. Kelsey over the phone, everybody who comes to those meetings, I understand, it gets passionate.
Oh,
You
yeah.
could sit in any business or any job, and if they're taking something away from you that now affects your livelihood, it's gonna make that person irate. And whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, it's still gonna, whether it's right, you're still gonna be upset.
Right.
I mean, it is what it is, but it's a tough job up there, and it's a tough job up here, but the pension board is not receiving any compensation.
No, they get nothing.
You know, they get whatever somebody says to them in the hallway, and that's it.
That's
They-
it.
They get a thank you from us when they resign or go about their way.
Yeah.
I do recommend if the council can make it to meetings, come. I've been here with Mary Beth, I've been here with both councilmen. Lachardi's come on occasion when he can get here. I plan on coming to the next one, if I can get here. But again, it can be tough, and if I can, and that was one thing, and I'll give Councilman Giroux his props. It's why he wanted that camera system in here. There were people who didn't want that camera in here, because they're afraid all people are gonna come up here and sit on their soapbox and try to be on TV all day. But that was the best thing, because there are people who are all over this country, in Vegas or whoever, can sit there and watch us. We're not the most exciting people, I understand that, but at least if they need the information, they can get it.
Right.
And I know Kevin's responsible for 27 individuals, or however many individuals, and he'll send them emails saying, hey, this is coming up, and, I give him kudos for that, because if I was a pensioner and I know a guy like that is coming to these meetings and caring, I don't mind giving him my money, because it's saving me my personal time, and, it's money well spent sometimes. But again, it's a tough job up there, and I feel bad for both sides. I really do. I wish it didn't happen, that the blowout happened. And, it's sad when you get those phone calls saying, it was very stressful on both sides. And they didn't deny, they didn't say that, oh, it was them, it was everybody, and we don't want that. We need to make sure the pension board stays in place. Now, you might not agree what they do or how they do it, but until we have a new system in place, we won't be able to conduct our business if there's no pension board. And that was gonna be a one-on-one conversation I was gonna have with you, Mr. O'Connell, but that's right here and now with everybody. And if those members walk away from this board, they could, the next person who retires is not gonna get their pension until there's a board in place. That's not fair to them.
Could we actually
hear
put on
ya.
the next agenda an update on where we are with discussions with the treasurer's office and the actuaries?
Yeah.
Please.
Alan?
Thank you.
Alan Palazzo, 5 Robin Lane, and I'm going to be really quick with regard to pensions falling under open records. APRA requests, yes, they are. The Providence Journal drove the horse on this one, and you can go online and find out pensions for state employees with no problem. I'm not sure about the benefits, probably, but the pensions for sure are there. Second item, I'm Italian, Mr. O'Connell is Irish, however, maybe his people could take a lesson from the French, Yellow Jackets. They make a very strong impression. I'm sure if his people showed up wearing yellow jackets, they might have sympathizers with them, and that would make a profound statement. Lastly, with regard to the pension performance, my brother always told me, follow the money, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Jody, how you doing?
Judge Kelly, Robinson Way, retired police. I'm going to make it quick. I just want to make a statement because of in the issue of the pension meeting last time. There was mentioned that there was threats mentioned, there was obscenities yelled. I can honestly say there was nothing like that. Did we get upset? Did we ask for their resignation? Yes, we did, because we were upset at the moment. But at no time I want them to feel that they're in any threat in any way. But I just want that to go on record, that there was nothing said to harm them in any way.
And they just felt, they didn't feel that somebody threatened them, they just felt that it got heated and they didn't feel comfortable. Let me rephrase that, from threatened to uncomfortable. All right?
Definitely got uncomfortable, without saying.
And I heard from both sides. The only person I honestly didn't speak to was Mr. O'Connell, because I was planning on having a one-on-one conversation. I actually have his phone number posted on my desk.
Yeah.
And I was gonna make some time this week. And I was gonna tell him about, if we don't have this pension board, we can't function.
Well understood.
And again, you do get passionate, you know, and Jody, you're a very calm, cool, collective guy most of the time. And
Right.
I've never seen you lose your cool. Again, Mr. O'Connell, I respect him, he has a passion for it.
Okay.
There are some individuals that I see sit back there and start, you know, just mouthing off, and it gets, and you gotta turn around, and I told Mr. Haru, as chairman, you know, you need to control that. And he honestly, if you know Al, Al's a very quiet guy. He's not a combative person. And he does want the right thing for the community, he really does. But the thing is, when he's sitting here, and he's gotta know as the chairman, his boundaries, and I've had that conversation, and, I'll be honest, there was conversation of actually maybe having, because we have a town sergeant, he's responsible for removing somebody if we ask him to, but they don't have that ability. So, we've talked about maybe possibly having a police officer, but again, that's an added expense to the pension, because we're not gonna pay for that detail. You know, it's gonna be on the pension, and what's the next thing you're gonna say? Why are we paying for a police officer? Well, because 2 out of 10 times, you might lose your cool. And unfortunately, we have to make sure that if you're out of control, and you're not, and if Mr. Haru says, Bert, I need you to leave, and Bert says, I'm not leaving, I'm not going, and he gets very combative, who's gonna remove him? None of those people up there should be able to have to do that.
Well, like I said, I just wanted that to go on record, and I did hear that also about a police officer, there's really no need for that. Obviously, I can honestly say with the crew that was there the other day, there was no threat. Everybody got upset, but that's as fast, you know, that's as far as it goes.
Even Jody doesn't get upset, he was upset.
Listen,
He never gets upset.
I've been yelled at, I yell back,
And she
but
said
some people don't feel that way, and they don't get combative. You know, we've all been down that road, and we don't wanna be down that road, it's an ugly feeling.
Okay,
It's,
well,
you know, you go home at the end of the night, and even myself, I sit there and when I'm finally settled down, I think, what just happened? Why did it happen? Why do we gotta be like that? Why, you know, then we can have conversations.
I realize it's a thankless position, obviously, even yours position's all is, but, cooler heads will prevail, and I just wanted to go on record that no one has to be afraid of anybody.
Thank you, Jody.
Thanks, Jody.
Well,
Any other public comment?
Don Willett, DPW Director.
That's gonna cost your department.
That's good. Not a problem, I like this little setup. Just Christmas trees, we're asking everybody to have them out by the 22nd of January. When we make that final run by your street, if the tree shows up on the 26th, we're not picking it up, you're gonna have
Totally
to
agree,
trim
and if
it.
it's a fire hazard, if it's still in your house, then after January 22nd, it's
So-
probably pretty dry.
So.
So,
The question that is on that, did they send anybody by yet?
yeah, they've been picking them
They've
up
been
slowly
picking-
but surely.
Great truck was in front of my house picking them up.
Yeah, DPW has been out picking them up.
Right.
And as they're doing that, they're also picking up yard waste.
We're no longer picking up yard waste, as
If
of,
it's out there, are we picking it up?
no, we are not, we're telling
If we're
everyone.
going by it,
If they're going by it, we're asking them to bring it in,
So
so.
question about that. How do we get that word out there?
Well, again, I started on December 5th. Next year, there'll be a complete memo, an ad, and I will turn around tomorrow and see what is available to me as far as the public. Do you have a local newspaper? Do you have a local television
We should
station
mail
or
it out
something
with
like
the
that? But I wanted to put it in here, and we definitely will put it on the webpage. All right?
thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Don. Any other public comment? Because public comment went twice as long as the meeting did.
I'd make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
9:18.